Welcome back to the Board Drill Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Kyle Bradburn, here with my co-host, Matt Dixon, and we're going to do a special 2023 recap episode. We're not very far into this podcast yet, but we figured we'd go ahead and recap it in year one / mid-season one. And we're going to talk about some of our favorite things we've heard from our guests. So, Matt, we're going to start off with our first guest was Christian Peterson. What do you like about his talk and in our interview with him?
So we asked Coach Peterson to come in and speak about his first year being a head football coach, going to a state title. And I think a big takeaway we had from Coach Peterson is how he's built a family-like environment at his school, getting his family actually involved with the players, making sure that his family, his wife, his kid are at practice every week, that he spends time with his family away from practice. You know, he kind of keeps that as that his family's part of the team, part of the program. And I think he's creating a really good culture there at Middle Tennessee Christian School.
Yeah, I agree. That's such a cool part that he talks about, being able to do family. The cool thing I took away from it, and I have heard of another coach that did that, but his dads and decals thing I thought was a really, really cool piece to it. For those of you that didn't listen to the episode, he brings the dads in. They have a little event where the dads do the decals on the helmets with the players for the upcoming game. And excuse me. And they have a little meal. I think he said they do that one in the locker room. They do a mom's one different, but it's definitely not in the locker room because they don't want it to smell bad. So got a good laugh out of that. But I think he does such a good job of culture there, which we go way back with Petey. It's not shocking that he's great with culture, but and then the last good thing he did was win a state championship. So that's always a big deal. It's much harder than people think. Winning's hard at this level and at every level of football. So winning a state championship at any point in your career is fantastic. Winning it in year one is unheard of. So good for Coach.
And the culture with it, you're now building for the future, right? Yeah. So it's not just about winning at year one, but building for the future and creating that plan for success moving forward that he's got going there. Just good stuff.
And it's instant buy-in, right?
Mm-hmm.
No one's going to be second guessing you after you win a state championship in year one. I mean, I'm sure they're going to be pissed if you don't repeat, but no one's really going at your credibility moving into year two, which is such a big deal. A lot of us have taken over programs where in year one it's been a little better than a train wreck because of what went on there before. And then you're really trying to, you got that uphill battle. So at least he's at the top and he gets to hopefully stay there. So our second guest was Coach Aaron Avery. We talked about analytics and offensive breakdown during the off season. So what was your favorite part of that, Matt?
So I thought the great takeaway from Coach Avery was his the way he breaks down every single play they run through the year, filters through the important ones, you know, the plays that aren't in garbage time, as he said, that you can really get an analysis from and take a look at your play calling system and seeing what was effective and what was not. Just his whole spreadsheet and the approach he takes towards it, I thought was great. And just the way he has it organized and set up, I think there's a lot to be said for that a lot of coaches probably don't do in the offseason, or at least do enough. You know, you take a look at what you were successful at and you kind of have a feel for it. But I think that data-driven approach to breaking down what you're doing during the season carries a lot of value in your program and can put reasoning behind the decisions you're making in the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an old saying, but you can't know where you're going until you know where you've been. And he does a really good job of doing that. I'm not a huge, I guess maybe I'm half in, half out on analytics. But that is the version of analytics that I would roll with. The heavy breakdown, the offseason, what you did well. Maybe we should do more of what we do well. What do we need to work on? What do we need to get rid of? To me, that's a great version of analytics, not like, hey, let's go fourth down every time because the sheet says so. And I'll get into that later, but there's nothing worse than the coach of you're just really bad on fourth down and you have been all year, but the coach is like, well, the sheet says we should go for it on fourth. It's like, you suck on fourth. Stop it. Stop doing it. So I think Coach Avery does a great version of when and how to do analytics properly in my mind. Again, maybe people on this broadcast that are listening that disagree with it, but to me, that's the right version of analytics. So you can suck at PFF, nerds.
Or if you just live in Arkansas and you decide you're always going to go for it on fourth down and always onside kick it,
Yeah,
that'd
but
be
that's
a little bit different.
He was good at that. Not in college, but he was good at that in high school.
Now, we played him when we were at New Smyrna, and we set up for it.
Didn't matter.
He never onside kicked against us. When you're set up for it, now he's going to try to pooch it over your head and stuff. So obviously, there's always a way around it. Yeah.
Gave you the change up. Our third guest was Coach Sean McIntyre from Creekside. What do you like about his talk?
I mean, obviously, at the end of that conversation, it's just mind-blowing that he has, 13 coaches on campus?
13 on campus. I think he said he had 28 total coaches.
It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Yeah. The amount of help he has on a daily basis just because of his setup and doing a good job hiring teachers that are able to come in and help his program. And there's a lot to be said for that. It's not always about just hiring great football coaches, but hiring good teachers that can come in and you can teach them football, right? Yeah. That football aspect can be taught. But having that buy-in from your administration that, hey, he's going to come in, he's going to hire good teachers for us and bring good teachers into our school, we need to trust him. And I think once you build that trust with administration, I mean, that's going to build your football program.
Yeah, and I think what you said is important, not only hiring good teachers, but understanding the other positions you have on campus as well. You have para-pro positions, you have dean positions, you have all these different things that you can get people in. And I don't know if at every school you can be a dean and coach football, but some you can. So looking at all these different aspects of jobs that are available at your discretion. So always go out and hunt that. So I'm the same with you. Coach McIntyre, I believe our original topic was something completely different than where we went. Yep. And it really became about relationships, this talk. And it's very clear no one builds relationships like that guy. He has 30-plus seniors every year that don't leave his program. And Jacksonville is a pretty heavy transfer area. So every year this guy has 30-something seniors. That means there are kids that have been through that entire program and never played a meaningful snap, and they're still there. And now, granted, maybe they're not good enough to play anywhere, but it just goes to show you those kids didn't quit in an age where kids want to quit everything if they're not successful right away. Those kids are still out there. They're still positive. They still have a relationship with coach. And then the other mind-blowing statistic was that he had almost 30 student assistants. And it's crazy. That shows you not only the connection he has with the players, but with kids around that high school and parents, because it takes a lot. I'm sure there are a lot of parents that are wondering why their kid wants to go out to football practice every day and they're not part of the football team, in the official capacity. And so it's pretty amazing what he did relationship wise. And again, that's not even where the topic was, but it kind of went that direction. That's what's kind of cool about this podcast is we don't care. We're not that structured. So it was cool for it to go that way. All right, our fourth one was Dennis, right?
Well, hold on. We did Lodge.
Oh, sorry.
You did Lodge. I wasn't there.
Oh, yeah. So
you did the Lodge one.
That's right.
I was the jerk for not being there.
I did Coach Lodge. You weren't there, so we hate you. So I'm sure you listened to it, correct? Because you're on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I know, I'm messing around. So what was the best part of that for you?
Oh, I mean, for me, the whole time I'm sitting there trying to get in his mind as an offensive guy, and to hear the way he does things and the way he sets things up and has answers for things. I just thought the whole thing was very interesting to hear his approach from it. There's not even a single thing that I can say, hey, that's the one thing we got from this one, because there was so much good conversation there about the setting up the game plan for the defense from the get-go and how to make the in-game adjustments. I thought it was just all around a really good episode for anybody that's looking to get better as a defensive coach. Yeah,
he had a quote in there, and I actually can't remember the quote verbatim, but he said, you can be, it was wild or something, or you can be crazy or you can be gap sound. And I kind of like that one. He was like, look, and sometimes crazy works. And it wasn't crazy. It was something else.
Yeah.
It was something like, hey, sometimes you can bring a lot of pressure. You can be gap sound. And you got to find the place to do that. And that is the biggest truth ever as a DC. Sometimes you have to take chances because the offense gets every advantage in football, especially today. So sometimes you have to take chances and sometimes you have to be really gap sound. And we would both argue that even when we take chances, we're gap sound, but we know sometimes we may be gap sound, but super weak against something. And so for me, it was talking to him about picking and choosing those spots. And that comes from doing a lot of homework on your opponent and knowing when the time is to take that risk. And I think that's a big thing of being a play caller, probably on both sides of the ball, but knowing when to pull the trigger on that play. That thing you've been doing all week, that simulated pressure or that reverse on offense or whatever it is, you got to know the right moment to have that play. And then hopefully your kids execute as well. Because there's a lot of times where we're like, man, we were in the perfect call, but dang, he didn't make the tackle. And I always go back to this year, a great example of that is the Miami Dolphins. Like Daniel calls like a slot reverse or something, Tua hands it off, goes to hand it off, and they just dropped it. Remember in that game?
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's like, why would they run this play, all this stuff and that? Well, sure enough, Twitter. I love Twitter. Guy comes up, has receipts. He's like, well, 2 weeks ago they ran this and everyone loved it on Twitter. I was like, that right there it is. 2 weeks ago they ran it, they executed it perfectly. It went for a first down in a huge part of the game. They're like, what a great play call. He runs it 2 weeks later and the guy just drops the handoff. And they're like, what a stupid play call in a stupid situation. He's always trying to be too clever. Okay, well, he was pretty clever 2 weeks ago. So I think that was a big piece for Coach Lodge for me, was just that balance of, when you're gap sound and you play good defense, and then it's like, hey, now we pin our ears back and we go after it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm excited to have Coach back on to really break down some offensive and defensive stuff between us. We always had some good battles, and I'd like to relive some of those again.
Yeah, we kind of did it. You may not want to be a part of that conversation, though, because your battle wasn't very good in that game. Just giving you crap because I have to. So, Coach Dennis Thomas was the last one of 2023, which as of recording this will be tomorrow when that post. But once you hear it, it will have been out. So what do you like about his? It was starting a program from scratch. It was really insightful. I've never had to do that. I've shown up places right after they've started up from scratch, but never been there year one.
Yeah, so I guess when you think of starting something from scratch, you have that excitement that, hey, I'm going to put my my thumbprint on it, and it's going to be my program. But just hearing the issues you deal with, what are the unexpecteds that come at you from him, you kind of, come back to reality that, that this isn't an established program. You have to build this from the ground up. There's a lot of work that goes into it and a lot of dealing with uncontrollable issues, of lack of practice field or lack of facilities, lack of equipment. But I thought his took an interesting turn at the end where he started talking a lot about being yourself as a coach.
Yeah.
I thought that he really shows that, the more his character comes out to the kids, the more he gets engagement with the kids, the more that results he gets, the better results he gets. And that kind of stuck with me with that conversation.
Yeah, the landscape is definitely changing in coaches. We were just talking about him, but Mike McDaniel is a great example of that, right? That dude is a nerd and a dork. And he is. But I sat there and I watched the Dolphins Hard Knock today. I think I watched all 4 or 5 episodes out, and I'm like, God, I can't help but love that dude. I don't, in those of you that know me that are listening, I hate everything Miami. I hate it. I hate Miami through and through, every piece of every level of every sport there. And my brother works for a pro team there. I don't care. I hate him. And so just it goes to show you a guy that can connect with his players and do all that. It's super fun to watch. And I'm like, God, I kind of like him. Kind of want this guy to win. I don't want the Dolphins to win, but I kind of want this guy to win. But my takeaway is more of a funny one from Coach Thomas. We talked about all the cool points of it, but having the locker room in a portable, that was just caught me off guard. I was like, how would you do that? And he's like, yeah, we had our lockers in there. Kids were in a portable. I was like, what? Like, where's the shower? And I
Oh
get it,
no,
right?
this
There is none. Where's the bathroom? Like all these different things that you'd be used to in a locker room that you don't have anymore. Like where do the coaches set up? What's going on? Who's got to unlock it? All these different things. So that was a big takeaway from me. Just all the trials and tribulations of starting a new program. We all have struggles when we take over a program, but not only would you have those struggles, you have the struggles of everything being brand new. There's no protocol, nothing. No one knows what's going on. So you really have to be super organized.
not
So
just that, but the administration too, and the admin has to have knowledge of football. You don't know what you'll get in those situations. If you have a new principal, new AD coming in, you could be stuck in a situation where you're dealing with people that have been at the elementary school level, middle school level. They've never dealt with athletics, and they wouldn't know how to help you, right? So a lot of it too was that administrative support he had.
yeah, admin struggle with so many things. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Absolutely.
Walking. So it was a good first 5 guests. We've recorded a couple since then that will be coming out early January. We have a couple good ones coming up. We have some X's and O's one finally. We're gonna have a really, really good strength and conditioning one coming up. We got a lot of dudes that are coming out to that. That's one of the few ones that we're bringing some college guys into, mainly because at the high school level, there's not dedicated strength and conditioning guys everywhere. This is not a knock on anyone. I believe that high school should have the budget to hire those dedicated strength and conditioning guys. But until they do, we want to try to be a resource for those guys that are really trying to learn weight room and off-season tactics. So we'll have all that coming up, and maybe a few more that I can convince to come on. Maybe one of Matt's favorites in the future. But so we're really looking forward to 2024. We're going to try to do one a week. So Matt, we're going to try to do 52 guests. Right? That's how many weeks are in a year? 52? 52 guests next year.
Most years, yeah.
Most years, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a leap year. No. So again, if you're out there, you want to hear somebody you're interested in coming on the podcast, let us know. Because we need 52 people lined up, and right now we have 2. So we got 50 slots open. So come on.
We got a few more. We got an NIL one that's going to come up that we're going to do. That'll be very interesting.
Oh, we're also
got it.
Yeah. I'm trying to land an NIL in the meantime. Anyone
else? Who wants to sponsor our podcast?
I need one of those deals where you guys have like a Ferrari. Or like, no, you not see the Ole Miss kid that pulled up to signing day in a Lamborghini
oh, yeah.
or whatever?
Oh, yeah. Well, did you see what Gus Malzahn did at UCF on signing day when all the visits came in, the senior day or whatever? He had like a Lamborghini there, Corvette or something the kids could take pictures with. Like, what are we doing?
Well, the photo shoot thing, they're actually talking about pulling back on the photo shoot thing. There was a new rule. I don't know, did it pass? Where they could
I think it did.
They could only do photo shoots on OVs.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people were disappointed in, but I've worked in a recruiting office. You have no idea how much work that just cut out. I mean, it allows recruiting people to focus on recruiting. And by that, I mean evaluation and all that instead of taking pictures and sending them out. And
in the spring, those guys are loaded down for 3 to 4 hours, sitting there taking pictures with kids, changing out jerseys and all the laundry you got to do with it. And it's just not. I mean,
OVs
it's not worth
crazy.
it for your program.
I won't get too much into it, but OVs, I remember when I was at Florida State in recruiting, it was right after season at this time because there was no early signing period. It was like 6 straight weeks of 7 days a week. So I remember we were in the office like 48 straight days. And as a pretty much paid nothing intern style recruiting guy, that was a bit of a brutal stretch. The only thing that was cool was we got free food. And so on OVs, we got to go to the steakhouse. And then they're always like, order one to go. I'm like, heck yeah, let's do this. So I love that. All right, so let's move on. We're going to kind of continue to talk about just a little bit of football. We don't normally do this, but it's the end of the year one. So let's talk about the best game we watched this entire year. This can be from any level of football. Matt, what is the best game you watched this year?
All right, so I got to go homer here. Miami Dolphins versus Denver Broncos.
Oh, man.
Anytime you see a team put up 70 points in the National Football League, that's just something special. Watching the Dolphins running attack, a lot of people always want to talk about their passing game and everything, but the running attack, how they've attacked the edge this year, a lot of good pin and pull technique you see from the Miami Dolphins. A lot of condensed formations and as they now call it, the cheetah motion, where you got Tyreek Hill or whoever. They've used a lot of different guys, and that full speed motion going out towards the sideline to put stress on that defense. And they've been able to use it in the run game as well. So I thought that was very interesting to watch at the beginning of the year. Obviously, people have kind of caught on to what they came out doing, but you talked about McDaniel earlier, and I mean, he's just offensively right now, he's got some great ideas that are really early in this season. Came out and that Denver game, they looked impossible to stop. So for me, grew up a Dolphins fan, so that's an easy pick for me.
Yeah. So mine's an interesting one. It wasn't very long ago, but it was a FCS semifinal game. Maybe it was quarterfinal. It was Montana Furman. It was an unreal game. It went back and forth and ended up going to overtime. The quarterback for Furman actually happened to be a local kid here from Jacksonville, Tyler Huff out of Ridgeview, and which I didn't realize for half the game. I had no idea because I'm just watching the game and I'm watching it kind of quiet. I have a baby, so I'm trying not to yell and be loud. And I'm in my loft. This is right outside of the bedroom. So watching this game, it's incredible. Montana is slinging the ball around. They're doing Q run. There's jet sweep stuff. And then Montana marches down the first possession, scores. I'm like, oh gosh, here we go. At Montana, FCS. We've seen this story, right? The North Dakotas, the Montanas, they always pull everyone out. Furman comes right back, and that Huff kid runs like a Q counter for a 40-yard touchdown right after that. And I was like, okay, here we go. And then, or so it's flipped. I'm sorry. They threw a slant for a touchdown right away. Montana brings 6-man pressure, slant. Kid takes it up. Then Montana scores again right away. I'm like, oh, here we go. Furman can't hold par. QB counter, 40 yards. I'm like, holy crap. This is going to be an incredible game. So I was now all eyes focused on that game, watched it all the way to overtime. It was phenomenal. It was one of the best games I've seen all year. So if you're like me and you record every game on YouTube TV, go back and watch that one. It's a doozy.
And you're a big FCS guy, right? I mean, you watch several FCS games per year, right? Probably per week.
When I was a coach and in the college world, my dream job, and this team wasn't FCS, the team was the head coach at James Madison. Not a lot of people are that precise with what they wanted to do. I obviously came nowhere near that, but I knew that I wanted to be a coach, but I knew I didn't want to be a big-time Division I coach and deal with all the media and everything. But I was like, man, those FCS jobs are pretty cool jobs. I get to do football all the time, but it's low-key enough where I get to have a life as well. And maybe I wouldn't have, maybe it still would have been crazy and all that stuff, but to me that felt like it. So I'm a big FCS fan. I watch it every year because I think it's such good football that no one puts eyes on. And if you watch some of these teams play, some of the run games, all this stuff, it's phenomenal. And I came across a Twitter that I think a lot of people had been following before. It's like the last fullback. This guy, if you guys don't follow it, he does full, like literally goes through run cut-ups of the entire game and posts them and talks about them of entire games. And so I'm like, this is great. I get to basically go see every game. And these were FCS games. And obviously he does FBS games. But I was like, oh my God, I can go see every run from a game without having to watch the full game. This is a dream come true. So I have bookmarked like every single one of his tweets in bowl season.
Yeah, I think he's last of the fullbacks, and it's at the last fullback. Does a fantastic job.
What a great name.
First post that comes up, is there a cure to male loneliness? Fullbacks. Love it.
And just for the record, he's not a guy that only does fullback teams. He just does run cut-ups of everything. So
it's all run game.
Don't think that he's only going to give you triple option in 21 personnel teams. Okay, perfect. So Matt, that leads us into our next piece here. Going into next year, we're going to act like we still coach, which we don't. We wish we did. Who are you scouting for next year to get better at your craft? What are the handful of teams you're looking at the next level or the next level that you're trying to break down and get better?
So there's a few of them. I'm going to give you three. One for me is Liberty. I think Jamie Chadwell continues to do a phenomenal job offensively. Really like the stuff he did. I did a kind of deep dive into what he did at Coastal Carolina, and I think he's doing a fantastic job there at Liberty. My next one would be Liberty. My next one would be Kansas. And I phenomenal coaching staff there, came from Buffalo a few years ago. And they were talk about a multiple offense that you got a lot of reads and different looks at, a lot of quarterback run ability. I thought that was a very interesting offense to watch. I know that as a UCF fan, when I watched them play UCF, they ran the ball right down their throat the whole game. There was no stopping it. 2 to 3 tight ends on the field. They jump in and out of personnels, move people around a lot, really catching defenses off guard.
He's a D3 guy too.
Yeah, he is from Whitewater?
Mount Union guy.
Oh, he's Mount Union? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
My last one is actually FCS, New Hampshire. And nothing to do with their offense. University of New Hampshire blocked 11 kicks this year.
Ooh,
extra point, field goal, blocked 11 kicks. Now, the most in, I think, FBS, it's usually around, FBS and FCS is usually around 6.
That's about
right?
To say. Can't be that many.
They blocked 11, some in multiple in some games, right? So they're obviously doing something. I want to go check that out, do some film study on New Hampshire special teams and try to get a pin on what they're doing there.
Their special teams coordinator is about to be at an FCS level, is what you're telling me?
Oh, yeah. He's about to jump up.
Yeah.
And who knows what it was? Maybe they just had a stud that, it could have been just a dude out there doing it. But I didn't get to watch any of New Hampshire, so definitely something I'm going to go back, look for, and see if I can put a pinpoint on what they were doing.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Yours is a lot more in-depth than mine. Mine is more a feel. When I see certain things on defense, I want to learn them. It doesn't even matter how good the team was. I want to see how they did things. And my first one is a team that, in a lot of games, they're really good, and they're really, really tough until they just got wore down. And I don't think that's from a coaching perspective. I think it's from a talent perspective. That's the old Nebraska Cornhuskers. On defense, they ran a kind of 3-high hybrid style defense, which as you know, I've been semi-obsessed with, but I've been wanting to learn run fits out of it. I get all the passing things, but I don't always get the run fits. If you're a 3-high expert and you want to go like one-on-one run fit with me, please let me know. And please be something better than the third guy's always the adjuster. I'm like, no, I need something better than that. So Nebraska Cornhuskers, that's part of my breakdown. They were one of the top 3-high teams. And again, I know not, if you did pure rankings, they're probably not, but for me. The next one is Troy, who had a, again, I'm going to use analytics here after I said PFF sucks, so I'm sorry. It's just because it's like the only way to rank them right now. So Troy was a top tight front defense. I always want to learn more about tight front. I like the tight front. We ran it quite a bit. It's been kind of the new Raven football, but I always want to see new stuff out of it. So Troy's on there. I'm going to break down Florida State because I always do, so we'll just skip that one. The next one is, again, it pains me to say they're a hybrid 3-high team, but they're a 4-down 3-high team, which is different. It's Ohio State. So obviously, most of the year they were pretty good. Look against Michigan, I know they gave up 30, but again, like sometimes teams are just better than you, and Michigan seems like they were just better. So Ohio State again, want to see some of that 3-high team, 3-high stuff, which I know is a bit of a kind of repeat here. And then the last one was one of the top pressure teams, and it kind of hits home, but Penn State. They're insane for pressure. They got a lot of it this year, so I want to see what they did. I know it's Manny Diaz. Florida State, we're pretty familiar with him, so I wonder if it's still the old Manny Diaz stuff or he's put some new wrinkles in. Didn't watch a whole lot of Penn State this year because no offense, I don't think they're very good. But I'm curious to see how their defense is doing. Clearly, that's very good. So
I thought they had like a top defense in football this year, right?
Yeah, no, correct. I wasn't referring to their whole team as not being very good, but I'm so tired of watching Big Ten quarterbacks. They're just not good.
It wasn't good. It wasn't good this year.
And everyone else, well, J.J. McCarthy, no, he's not. J.J. McCarthy's not good. I'll go on record saying it right now. He's so not good that they don't trust him to throw the ball in big games. And I don't want to hear because they run the ball so well. Throw some play action in there.
Yeah, he's
not. Let's move on from my rant.
Hold on. No Tulsa?
No, it's Toledo.
Toledo.
Oh, yeah.
Toledo, right?
I'm going to talk about one of my favorite Twitter accounts later on, but this person actually wrote an article on Toledo football and something interesting they do on defense. So it's another thing I want to look into. It's kind of a weird thing where it's like a quarters lock team, but their safeties are the first run committers, and it's almost kind of like man on the outside. So I'm trying to learn more about it. I don't know much. I sent it to you today, Matt. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to dig into that and see how that works. I think it's a great first or second down defense, but I'm not sure yet. Right? Everything looks good on paper till you start seeing it executed. And then I have someone like you that punches holes in it. You're like, yeah, what if I do this? And I'm like, oh shit, that's not good. So I'm curious. They piqued my interest, right?
I'm excited to punch some holes in it.
That's what happens. But that's why you have guys like that around. So you got to have a conversation about it to make sure something's good. All right, so that's who we're scouting. So we're going to move on to our bowl game pick'em, and we're going to talk a little bit about these games, some more than others. But here we go. All right, the first game on the list, Matt, and I'm writing these down. I've already done my picks, but we'll go through it.
And I don't know what games you're about to throw at me, so
Matt,
I'm going to have to.
Oh, by the way, Matt, I spent 30 seconds on picking the winners of these, so it's not like I'm
Oh, gosh. I have to think about something. And I don't know who's out of these games. That's the problem. Not knowing who's playing, and this is all.
I'll help you a little.
I hate it so much. All right.
All right. The first one, and again, we may release this after a couple of these games have played. I promise you we're picking them before they're played. It's Wednesday night, December 26th, in case you're wondering.
8:58 Eastern Time.
8:58 p.m. All right, Texas. No, I'm just kidding. NC State, Kansas State. It got real quiet. NC State runs the 3-3.
What am I picking? I'm just picking to win?
Just to win. There's no spread. Don't care.
Kansas State. I'm going to take Kansas State. I know they have a real solid run game. They got a couple tight ends. I mean that I don't remember exactly their names or jersey numbers, but they had a couple tight ends that early in the year I know were crushing it. Do a lot of play action off the run out of multiple tight end fronts. I think they're going to give NC State all kinds of heck.
Okay, so I was going to go NC State.
Go NC State.
But the dude linebacker they have, I believe, is holding out. So I'm not sure. So I'm going to go NC State. All right, I'm going NC State. All right, next one. You ready? Arizona, Oklahoma.
Kansas State versus NC State.
Yep.
What do we got? Arizona versus Oklahoma?
Oklahoma's quarterback is obviously transferred to Oregon.
Again, to his sixth school? Is it? Fifth?
Yeah, he was a UCF
fifth school? Yeah, he was. He bailed out. With Dylan Gabriel gone at quarterback, Arizona's hot. I'm going to go Arizona. I think that they have more momentum. They got more to play for in this game than Oklahoma does. So give me Arizona.
I picked Arizona in a heartbeat. I believe Oklahoma lost a bunch of transfers too. So I went with Arizona. So we both got Zona for that.
Okay, that's easy.
All right, Clemson, Kentucky. This one's intriguing.
I guess I don't know who is who's sitting, who's staying for this game at all.
Everybody's playing for both games, and probably with a few holdouts.
Give me Kentucky.
You got Kentucky. All right. I went with Clemson.
I don't know why. I have no reason why.
There you go. I went with Clemson.
Yeah, probably the better pick.
They're really good on first down on defense, which when you play a team that's run heavy like Kentucky, if you can put them behind the sticks, I think that gives Clemson an advantage. Again, I have not broke down either one of these teams. I've watched Clemson play one game this year against Florida State. They're pretty darn good on the D line. All right. This one may be just as easy, although there may be two holdouts in this game. Oregon State versus Notre Dame. Is Notre Dame's quarterback holding out?
I don't know. I don't know that.
Let's Google it.
I think is he transferring or is he done?
No, he's going pro.
Okay.
He's opted out. So the Oregon State quarterback has opted out, and so has the Notre Dame quarterback.
Both quarterbacks. So if the Oregon State guy was still there was that the DJ
Uiagalelei.
Yeah, Uiagalelei.
Florida State. So straight up pick them between two teams with no quarterback.
I guess I'd have to go with the team that I feel like has the better overall team, which would be Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I have no basis for it, but when you start to remove the team chemistry there, I think that Notre Dame probably has better players.
Yeah, if they both had their starting quarterback, I may have gone Oregon State here, but I didn't. I went Notre Dame with you.
Yeah.
All right. Auburn, Maryland. I believe Maryland's quarterback is Tua's younger brother, and I believe he's transferring.
He's out too? Give me Auburn. I don't know. Auburn's bad. Give me Auburn. Yeah, give me Auburn. If there's no Tagovailoa.
Well, hold on. Let's check it. Nope, he opted out from bowl game.
Yeah. Give me Auburn then. Once again, go with the better overall team.
The better overall team is definitely Maryland. I'm going Maryland.
Okay.
It's
That's
not
probably
close.
not a bad pick.
I don't trust Hugh Freeze. The guy lost in New Mexico State by a lot. I don't care if he played Bama tough. All right. This one's probably going to be an easy one. LSU, Wisconsin. I believe Jaden Daniels is playing.
Then yeah, LSU. That's easy, right? If Jaden Daniels is there,
I'm double checking it. You can keep talking.
Oh, you're pausing me. Yeah, if Jaden Daniels is there, he's the Heisman Trophy winner. You can't go wrong picking them.
I don't think I haven't found anything about him opting out yet. I also just Googled it, so I could be way off.
Well, not only if he's there, I'm going to say it's a dominant performance by LSU.
Yeah, I'll go that far. LSU. There's only been one team that slowed down Jaden Daniels all year. And they didn't let them play for a championship. So, all right. Here's what I think is one of the more intriguing ones: Tennessee versus Iowa.
I mean, can we just bet on the over under in this game? Like, are they going to score 20 points total?
Under. There's no way. You got to pick a winner.
Is their punt returner playing? That would be my question for Iowa. Iowa's punt returner.
Every Iowa player's playing.
If Cooper DeJean, whatever his name is, if he's playing, Iowa has a chance to return one to the house and put some points on the board. Give me my boy hype. Give me my boy hype. Give me Tennessee.
Okay, so you're taking Tennessee. I am taking Iowa. I had already written that down, so I'm not even changing it.
I got to go with hype.
I
believe the hype.
Joe Mixon's just disappointing for me. All right, we do have an update here. This just coming in. Actually, I just Googled it correctly. I Googled all the holdouts and pulled it up. I do believe now that Jaden Daniels is holding out. Correct. It's been confirmed. He's not playing against Wisconsin.
Who's their backup? Is anybody good?
Me.
I definitely wouldn't take you.
Why would I know the backup?
Still give me LSU. I'm still. They're not going to win big, but give me LSU. Don't change it.
All right. Let's get into the New Year's Six games. Ohio State versus Missouri.
Ooh. Missouri. Put it this way. Here's the way I'm going to look at this. If Ohio State's quarterback was that bad, which I think he was bad. Who's behind him? Right? Who's behind him? I don't know what Missouri's playing here, but I'd lean towards Missouri to beat Ohio State. Missouri had a quiet but strong year in the SEC where, a few more things bounce right earlier in the season. They got a shot at going to the SEC title game. So give me Missouri.
Yeah, Ohio State has a lot of transfers and holdouts. So I'm going with Missouri.
I think it's a toss-up, but I like I said, I leaned to Missouri. What do you got?
I wrote down Mizzou.
Okay.
So, and I did this before you did. I'm not changing any of my picks.
All right.
Ole Miss, Penn State. Here's that good. This is the tried as true tale. It is great offense versus great defense.
That Penn State defense has been legit. I love what Lane does. But Levy's gone, right? Yeah, Jeff Levy's gone.
Levy's gone.
No, Levy wasn't there. Levy was in Oklahoma.
Oh,
yeah. Now who's the OC there? Still there? Yeah.
The DC is the old Alabama guy at Ole Miss.
Did Penn State's DC leave?
Yes, Manny Diaz.
Diaz.
Wait, did Manny take that job?
I don't know.
Hold on. I thought he was offered something.
All right, so give me.
Oh yeah, he's going.
Penn State was.
Manny Diaz
He's
took
going
the
where?
head coaching job at Duke.
Okay. I'd like to go Penn State. They played strong all year, but with no Manny Diaz, give me Ole Miss.
Wow, you're putting that much stock on Manny Diaz.
Yeah. That defense was incredible this year.
I really wanted you to pick Ole Miss there because that was you going with the good defense, and I already picked Ole Miss. That was me going with the good offense.
Oh, wow.
All right, here's one that I know we're going to pick different teams on. There's no shot I don't pick one team, and there's a 100% shot you pick the other team. Florida State versus Georgia. Florida State has 19 holdouts, transfers, going pro. 19, including their starter and backup quarterback, are gone.
Disgusts me. Disgusts me to see that the Florida State players are doing this. I was really hoping that they would fight against Georgia and give us a good game. But
does it
because
disgust
really,
you? Does it?
It does.
When
It
they were
does.
told that games no longer mattered, now you're mad at them for games not mattering.
Make it matter. Make it matter. Right?
If
So
they were in the college football playoff, they would have all played.
So just win. Just beat Georgia. That's all you got to do. Claim your national championship.
We're not going to do that. What if they do beat Georgia?
But have some pride. Show up and play. You got to go Georgia here. I do. If we're picking for accuracy,
I am picking for accuracy. I think Florida State is somehow going to find a way to win. Sans 18 players. They got young guys. They do get a starter back, a D tackle that was somehow suspended all year for the transfer rule that they just overturned and said now anyone can transfer and be eligible. But he was suspended for the entire regular season. So he is eligible to play in the bowl game. It will be his first game all year. They get him back. I still think they're a very good D-line, even without Jared Verse. There's a lot of dudes on that line. I don't think Georgia – there was a stat on Georgia. Georgia doesn't sack the quarterback well, and they get sacked or something like that. Maybe they don't. They don't sack the quarterback well, though. But
yeah,
I keep telling the joke that we have this really fast wide receiver named Deuce Span that they're going to put him at quarterback and run the triple, and they got a shot against Georgia. Last time they played Georgia in a bowl game, they did move a quarterback from wide receiver – or they moved a wide receiver from quarter – why can't I talk? They moved a guy from wide receiver to quarterback. He did go to the NFL and play wide receiver. What was his name? Matt. This is my all-time favorite player ever.
Say that again.
They played Georgia in a career wide receiver at Florida State, who did play quarterback in high school, moved to quarterback mid-game for Florida State, and they almost upset Georgia. They would have probably beaten him if they started this guy.
Can you give me a year?
2006? I don't. Hold on. I'll Google it.
I mean, it wasn't Charlie Ward. He was already an established quarterback, right? So that would eliminate him.
This guy did not take a snap at quarterback at Florida State, I believe, until then. It was 2003. It was the Sugar Bowl. He did not start the game, but they moved him there. And if he
Peter Warwick? Peter Warwick was a high school quarterback, right?
Correct. Was not there.
Not Peter Warwick?
No.
I don't know. You got me.
This was a guy who was a freshman when Peter Warwick was there. His name was Anquan Bolden.
Oh, right.
Who is if anyone's ever wondering, and no one is, he's my favorite player of all time. I will tell everyone that is my favorite player, bar none, ever. All right. So there you go. Florida State, Georgia. Everyone's picking Georgia. I'm going Florida State. I live and die on that shit, so I don't care. Oregon versus Liberty Bibberty. Now, Matt was just raving about Liberty. Can they pull the upset on Oregon? I'm sure Bo Nix is playing. He's played in 7,000 college football games.
So the question is, can Liberty pull the upset? Absolutely not.
Wow.
No way. Not going to happen. Oregon's too good offensively. Bo Nix has been in college football for 18 years. He knows what he's doing. Oregon's offense, two outstanding offenses throughout the whole season. But I just don't see them stopping what Oregon's been able to do. I don't see Liberty's defense being able to do it. You know, their offense is, I think, going to be able to put up some points, but I don't think they'll be able to stop Oregon with Liberty's defense.
So the big holdouts for the game is not Bo Nix and not the wide receiver. It's the 2 running backs for Oregon.
I
But
don't think it's going
just to make
matter.
it fun, I'm going to change my pick for the first time in this whole thing. I'm going Liberty.
There you go.
Just to have fun and root against you. I will not change my playoff picks. I have them. I think we're going to agree on one. We're definitely going to disagree on the other one. Or maybe we won't. So here we go. The first one is number 1 Michigan versus number 4 Alabama.
Oh, man. So I think this is a pretty even game, actually. I tried to look through and say, because I didn't know we were talking about these. I tried to look through and find any advantages either team really had this season. Alabama's really good on 4th down. That's all I found. Otherwise, they're very evenly matched. I feel like both
Alabama's
are
pretty good on
run-heavy
4th and
teams.
31, in case you're wondering.
And that's probably why that stat pulled up. So I think they're pretty evenly matched. I think I just feel like Michigan always chokes. I feel like Michigan always chokes. They just can't finish the job. Last year against TCU, everybody wanted to complain about TCU getting in the national title game. They beat Michigan to get there. Blame Michigan. I'm going to keep blaming Michigan. Bama over Michigan. Bama Tide are going to roll into the national championship game.
It's the same way for me. I'm a little biased. I'm a Saban guy. Didn't work for him or anything, but worked for Saban guys. So I'm a believer in Saban in big games with a month to prepare. It's hard to go against him. And I think the Jalen Milroe kid, I'm not trying to say he's the greatest quarterback out there, but I think his feet make a difference. Michigan's defense is very good. What
It's going to be a tight game.
All right.
It's
I'm already going to write in what I think your pick is for the next game.
Okay.
Washington, Texas. Who are you picking?
Well, I want to hear why you think you know my pick.
Because I think it's the favorite pick. I think you're just going with the favorite pick.
Okay. I actually don't know who's favorite. What number is Washington? Which number is Texas? Washington's 2.
Texas is 3. I'll pull up the full spread.
No, I don't need it. Washington's offense has
Texas
been
is favored by 4.5.
Washington's offense has been lights out this season. But I'm going to go back to the same thing I said about Liberty. Okay? The defense doesn't make up for it. And I don't think that I think Texas is going to give Washington issues on both sides of the ball. Washington is one of the most penalized teams in college football. They're not great in situational stuff. They put up a lot of yards, put up a lot of points. I don't know that they'll stop Texas. So while I don't think Texas is like a top team, I think that this is a very close game. And in that close game, I'd have to go with the team that I think can run the ball better. And I'm going to go with Texas.
See? Exactly what I said. Now, here's why Washington's going to win the game.
Okay.
Everyone talks about Texas. Texas this and Texas that. And
Texas is back.
They penalized Florida State down the stretch for playing tight games. Here's Texas's last couple games. We're going to exclude Texas Tech. They blew them out. Oklahoma State, good job in the Big 12. Cool. Iowa State, they beat 26-16. They beat TCU 29-26. They beat Kansas State 33-30 in overtime. Houston, they beat 31-24. They lost to Oklahoma. They played as tight a game as anybody down the stretch. I know Washington has too. I think good teams win tight games. So I just want to dispel that myth real quick. I just think that Washington wins this game every time someone tells me, Washington, no, they're washed. They're going to get beat. everybody and their mother told me Oregon was going to smoke them the second time around. You
Mhm.
watched that game. Washington came out and dominated that football game from start to finish. They did. It was, and they had some key red zone stops on defense. Not an overwhelming defensive, thing. Key red zone defense, and they run the football better than people think. People think it's all Penix running around back there, but they ran the football against Oregon. I think Washington wins. I think they run the ball for over 100 yards. I think Penix slings it all over the field. I think they beat Texas.
I don't disagree with you necessarily. I think I've loved Penix since he was in high school. He was at Tampa Bay Tech as a high school football player. We hosted a rivals camp, which he came and dominated over some really good quarterbacks that we had there at the camp, including like Joe Milton, who's at Tennessee. But Penix, he's a competitor. He came out and he's putting balls on the mark. He's energetic, and that transfers in your game. And I think that's great. I have a problem with them being one of the top 3 most penalized teams in the country.
I get that.
And I think that comes to bite you, especially in tough situations. So looking at a tight game, that's what that's kind of what I put it on. But love Penix, love Washington. I was same as you. I didn't see how people were saying that Oregon was going to mop the floor with them the second time around.
Didn't get it.
I didn't understand that at all. I'd love to see Washington win, but saying what I think will happen, I'd have to go with Texas.
Yeah, and these are all opinions. I hate when like talking heads on places get them. They're like, I'm just telling you this is going to happen. That's going to. No one knows who's going to win this game. No one knows who's going to win either. Look, I think Bama's going to win, but we could be sitting here watching a Michigan Texas or a Michigan Washington national title game. I wouldn't be shocked.
Not at all.
So that's always my favorite thing. When people are like this and that or whatever. We're like, who thought TCU was going to beat Michigan? So you go through all these different things, and it is what it is. It's why they play the game, and I think that's why I hate when people are like, so and so doesn't deserve it, and so doesn't. Like, cool, in the NFL this weekend, like 8 of the 11 games were upsets. Kirk Herbstreit would have hated that because he only plays games on paper. So I don't ever count out a group of kids or a group of men on the football field. I've seen crazier crap happen. So anyone can win the games. Let's keep in mind, I'm not up here calling myself an expert on pick'em. Matt's not doing that either. So if you want to get on Twitter and make fun of us, go ahead. We will laugh with you. But the bottom line is, if you can't draw power to an underfront, I really won't humor you that much. So, all right, moving on. Our last piece tonight. We're going to talk real quick about our favorite Twitter accounts that we follow to learn football from. Matt, I believe you got 3.
I can come up with 3. Right, number 1, every.
Well, let me intro.
Oh, okay.
Here is Matt's top 3 Twitter handles to follow for offensive coaches.
First one we already talked about, last of the fullbacks. Like I said, or like we talked about, great run game schemes. Always showing that he's always on top of things, pulling up stuff as it's happening. So while you're watching the game, Rhino right now or right a little bit ago, he was on the Rice Texas State game. But he's really relevant to what's going on, and there's a lot of good information coming from him. Second one would be Dan Casey. Hopefully, if you're on Twitter, you follow Dan Casey and you follow the stuff he puts out. Great analysis. He kind of is more of one play at a time. He also has a podcast as well, the Play Callers Club, that you can go follow. But he does a very good job on Twitter, just one thing at a time, pulling these great schemes out that are a little bit different and make you think about it. It's not as basic as what the last fullback is, but he gets into some of the fancier plays he sees around. Last one, if you're an offensive line coach, okay, and this guy is not for everybody, right? He's gonna tell you if he thinks you're dumb or if you're wasting his time. And you really got to go back and look at his initial stuff. You need to look at his old videos, especially if you're learning zone, right? So if you're an offensive line coach and you're trying to get better at zone, Jim McNally, okay, and his Twitter's at Coach McNally OL for O-line. Longtime NFL coach, I mean, he knows his stuff. He's getting up there in age, but man, he gets in the kitchen with that stool and the chairs and starts working and showing technique and pulls up film and really finite detail of offensive line play. And he just likes to talk ball. If you can handle all caps and you can handle someone calling people out for no reason or whatever, it's you really learn a lot from him if you can follow it and stay up with them and just don't ask them dumb questions and you won't get bad responses.
So there are dumb questions.
Oh, there are. Oh, where's Ramsey going? Oh, okay.
No, she's taking off. If you were listening to the podcast, my corgi has been sitting in the background half the podcast. So tune into the YouTube and you can see it. All right. My top 3 defensive Twitter handles, I guess, to follow. The first one is a pretty obvious one. If you know me, I'm big on this guy. It's Cody Alexander. His Twitter handle is at @the_coach_A. He does matchquarters.com. He is a great reference for everything, especially match quarters. But really, he's expanded and doing everything. He has a Substack. That's a subscription. It's really cheap. It's like $7 a month. I subscribe to it. He's written 6 books. I think I own all 6. They're decently cheap. And he actually does digital ones that you can buy on your iPad for like $6. So he is really accessible. I don't know if it's just me because I met him when he was a GA at Baylor. He answers every question, doesn't lord over you. He is one of the best people I've been around, one of the best coaches. So Cody Alexander is my number 1 guy. Coach Vass, I believe it's at Coach Vass, is number 2. He has a great podcast where he gets a lot of coaches on. I've learned a lot from that podcast. He does a great job. He does answer questions as well. He has a website. He has a Patreon where he has a bunch of different film that you can access that is paid. But he does a really good job. He was in California. He's originally from Florida. He's back here now. So a lot of schemes and a lot of stuff he tweets about. I think he does a really good job. And the last one is Craig Rowe. It's at Craig Rowe. He is single-handedly the best defensive line guy on Twitter. I have been a DC. I know enough about the game and defensive movement and all this other stuff, but I've never learned so much about D-line technique than from Craig Rowe. I would have told most people that my first hire would always be a D-line coach because I don't know enough about the technique of it. After buying some of his stuff, and yes, I have bought it, and it's not super expensive. I think he has like a book, but with it, it's like a digital book, and it comes with a bunch of drill cut-ups too. And he also has a set of drill cut-ups where he does voiceover over it. So it's phenomenal. If you go to his Twitter, he's got a lot of examples of this that are just really good to work. He pauses it. He does stuff like this is Inside Club. I got it up right now. He's got one that's talking about reading the pads, Inside Club, how to do all these different things. If you're a D-line guy or a DC or heck, even a DBs or a linebacker coach that want to learn this stuff, he is a phenomenal resource. I believe he played in the Canadian Football League for a bunch of years. Probably played a little bit in the NFL. Yeah, 8 years in the NFL, and he was a CFL All-Pro. Fantastic guy. I believe he played at Michigan. That's his picture, at least, because I have it up on Twitter right now. But at Craig Rowe, awesome deal. I would follow him. I retweet, favorite everything he does. I've been big on. I've now recently learned on Twitter, if you bookmark things, you can just hang on to them for later. I know likes will do that as well, but it'll create a new bookmark thing for you. So pretty much everything he does, I bookmark and I go back and I watch. So those are my top 3 defensive Twitter accounts. They're phenomenal to follow.
I got one more I want to add. I'm going to add a 4th.
Bonus.
Tony Schiffman. He's an offensive line coach out of Wisconsin.
He's great.
And he hosts what is called Hog Football Chat. It's an offensive line football chat. And really some good answers because you get all these answers from people all across Twitter. The Twitter sphere, the X sphere now. Is it X? Yeah.
Still
so
Twitter.
All across Twitter, come into the Hog Football Chat. He has once a week. So if you ever see the Hog Football Chat from coaches answering his questions, anybody can go in and answer. So he he asks 4 questions a week, and you get a variety or he asks 4 questions, you get a variety of answers from all different coaches across the country. I used to participate in it, and it's some really good stuff that you can get. You can make connections with other offensive line coaches if you're into the big boys.
Yeah, he's great. I was on his Twitter the other day, actually. And I was like, man, I forget how much I follow him and how much good stuff he has. I wonder if he'd come on our podcast, and I forget that he has a much bigger, better podcast than us. So
yeah, his podcast.
That was a stupid thought process by me that I wasn't going to make public till right now. But I'm an idiot. There you go. So perfect.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, hopefully you guys are listening. Again, so this was our 2023 recap. We don't normally do episodes like this. Normally, we're talking with coaches, interviewing them. Again, our goal is to help high school football coaches across the country. We're former high school football coaches. We want you guys to be successful and learn new things. So we decided to do a podcast that was geared solely towards you. If you want to follow us again on Twitter, we're at Board Drill Pod. You can we're on Instagram and Facebook, all those things now, the Board Drill Podcast. If you want to contact us, you can email us at theboarddrillpodcast@gmail.com. And there's all these different ways to connect to us. If you're interested in coming on our podcast, let us know. If you have questions for any guests that have been on our podcast, or if you would like to come onto our podcast as a guest, please reach out. Again, it's the boarddrillpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to have you on. We're willing to talk to any coach anytime, anywhere. Just make sure that you can answer our special question we ask at the end of every podcast. If you want to know what that is, listen to our shows. Listen to our shows, because we ask it to every single coach that comes on here, and it's produced some of the best answers. Matt, anything else?
No, I'm excited for 2024 and ready to amp the podcast up, get some good off-season content. It's clinic season and time to get better.
Yeah, we're actually thinking about, how would I say this? Like we're gonna clinic.
We got something in the work.
It's like wedding crashers. We're gonna clinic crash. Maybe
gonna clinic crash. Yeah, we got some ideas.
We'll see if we get kicked out. So maybe that'll be like a really cool episode of us, like with the body cam footage of the cop arresting us or something like that. So we'll become.
I'm telling you, if we find the nearest restaurant / sports bar, we can set up there and podcast straight from there, and we won't have any issues. I
forgot one more thing too. We're also on TikTok. If you're a young coach and you're TikTok, we're on that as well. I believe it's Board Drill Podcast as well. So we're
on. Do you do TikTok. Dances on it?
No, we just post our shorts.
Oh,
so
okay.
And coming soon, Matt is going to be doing a series that will go on TikTok and all of our formats, all of our platforms, including YouTube Shorts, where he's going to do some board drill sessions about the power run game, counter, all these different things. So Matt will be coming up on it. Maybe I'll do a little Rip Liz, maybe some coverage on there. But going into next year, we plan on producing this series that comes out hopefully once a week. Maybe we can do 52 versions of that as well. So our goal is to produce as much content as possible. 52 guests, maybe 52 shorts a week by me and Matt as well, where we can talk football with you. So again, if you got anything that you are curious about, if we don't know it, we will go ask someone and we will find them and track them down. Unless it's about 3 high run fits, then you can come tell me about it. All right, for me and Matt, we're signing off. Have a great night, and we look forward to doing this in the future in 2024.
Happy New Year. Let's do it.
Happy New Year. All right.